Hi everyone, this video will teach you how to write the introduction paragraph of your argumentative research essay. If you haven't already done so, I recommend that you watch the thesis statement video before watching this one to refresh your memory on how to write an argumentative thesis statement. Please follow along with the pink What is Argumentative Writing booklet number 1. And if you don't have this, there's a Word document on Blackboard so you can type your notes directly on that document. Now your argumentative essay should be 4 paragraphs long. We have the intro, argument 1, argument 2, and conclusion paragraph. In this video, we'll focus on the top upside down triangle, which is the intro paragraph. Before we jump in, however, I want to take a moment to think about this following question. What might your reader need in the introductory paragraph? We know that the reader does not know much about this topic. In other words, they are uninformed. This is particularly important when writing the intro paragraph because your reader, who does not know much about this topic, is going to rely on you to provide the necessary context, background information, and the significance of the issue early on in your essay. We also know that the reader is intelligent and skeptical. As an intelligent reader, they're cautious and skeptical, and they're not going to trust you, and rightly so. You have to earn their trust through respectful tone, reliable evidence, logical reasoning, and insightful analysis. In order to do that throughout the essay, however, you have to set the tone early in the essay to provide them with the context and background they need. So this is all going to happen in the intro. At this point, I also want to draw your attention to the 3 rhetorical strategies that we've been thinking about throughout the semester: logos, or logical appeal, pathos, or emotional appeal, and ethos, or appeal to credibility. As a writer, it's your responsibility to think about what your reader needs. What might the reader need in the intro? They will need a reason to care. You will have to pull the heartstring through pathos. They will need to see that you're a credible writer and researcher and someone they can trust. You'll need to establish ethos by sharing your knowledge of the issue. They will also need to logically follow your introduction and logically arrive at your thesis. So you're going to need to use logos by staying focused and logically guiding your reader to your position and claim. So let's dive into the structure of the introductory paragraph. Please label the following image in the pink booklet that looks like this. It's an upside down triangle. And please label it this way. The introductory paragraph starts with the opening statement, context significance, and then leads to eventually the thesis statement, which is 1 to 2 sentences. Now, you might be wondering why it's an upside down triangle, and that's because the introduction moves from general to very specific. We have a general opening, and we slowly guide the reader to a very specific thesis statement. So let's start with the opening statement. The purpose of this sentence is to grab your reader's attention. There are many ways in which you can open your essay. You can open with a quotation. Now be careful with this one. Many students do this but forget to actually discuss the quotation. So if you're going to open your essay with a direct quotation, make sure you discuss the quote itself to explain the relevance and significance to the rest of your essay and your topic. Please don't forget to cite. You can also open by sharing a surprising or striking fact. Of course, if it's not common knowledge, don't forget to cite. You can also open with a rhetorical question to get your reader thinking about the issue. You can also open by simply introducing your contentious issue, and this is my personal favorite. Just jump right in and inform the reader about the issue. Why is it contentious or controversial? Now, regardless of the type of opening statement you choose, please make sure that your opening statement makes a direct comment about your topic. So for example, if your topic is cultural appropriation in the fashion industry, your opening statement should include the word cultural appropriation and make a direct comment about it. Just jump right into the topic. At the same time, something important to keep in mind, and students make this mistake quite often, please avoid generalizations or broad sweeping statements that start with phrases like, since the beginning of humankind. You're not going to be talking about the beginning of humankind. And you also want to avoid cliches like, in today's society. You're most likely speaking about a very specific issue that impacts our community or a very specific industry, so start there. After your opening statement, segue into the context and significance. I provided many options here, so I'll just comment on a few of them. First, if you're using specialized terminology or you're going to be discussing a concept that may be ambiguous and it could be interpreted in multiple ways, please provide your definition in the intro. If you're discussing cultural appropriation, this is a concept you need to clearly define for your reader in order to ensure clarity and consistency throughout your essay. Your reader may have a very different understanding of cultural appropriation than you. You might spend some time here to offer historical background, and to do this, you might even want to refer to some current examples, so you make the connection to the contemporary world now. You might want to offer an overview of the diverse perspectives when it comes to this issue. You might want to share a personal story or anecdote that spurred you onto this research project. Now, I want to take a moment here to briefly say that and address a lot of the concerns you might have about using personal pronouns in your essay. So I want to clarify this. It's completely okay to use personal pronoun I, but please do so sparingly. I know we're taught that academic writing has to be quote-unquote objective, and teachers teach this way because we want to encourage students to be fair in their writing and take all sides into consideration. But to assume that there is no human being or personal I behind academic writing is, I think, in my opinion, very misleading. All writing is biased to a certain extent, as we discussed in class, so removing the personal I doesn't necessarily make it less biased. In fact, it is more authentic and credible, in my opinion, when writers acknowledge our biases and how they inform their research and are honest about it. So it's okay to use the personal I, just use it sparingly. So as you can see, you can select one or a combination of these to logically provide the reader with the background and context they need in order to read your essay, recognize the urgency of the issue in your essay, and understand your position or your thesis statement. And as we already know, the thesis is your claim, your informed opinion on the issue. The how, this refers to the two arguments you'll use to develop your claim, and the so what, the significance of the issue. And if you'd like to review more on the thesis statement, please watch the How to Write a Thesis Statement video. So let's take a look at some examples. These are examples that I pulled from the pink booklet that I provided you. So I'm looking at the one called Introduction Sample 1. You might want to briefly pause the video at this point to read this intro. Okay, so let's start by looking at the opening statement. So they have a catchy opening here. If you're not sure what a triangle bikini is, you can Google it now. I had to do the same thing. I had to Google it. Their opening is indeed interesting because it definitely encourages the reader to think about the wide price range in the fashion industry. But by looking at this opening statement and their rhetorical question alone, I'm not quite sure what the topic is going to be about. The writer also assumes that the reader will know what a triangle bikini is, and not everyone does, so some context there would be much appreciated. So what exactly is the topic of this essay based on the introduction alone? Well, let's take a look. So they seem to touch on price disparity in the opening line. Now, mind you, I want to note that there's a kind of guessing game happening here. As a reader, I'm very confused because I'm guessing and extrapolating what the writer is trying to say, since the writer does not explicitly tell me. So your reader really shouldn't be playing these guessing games. You need to be very straightforward and introduce your topic clearly. And as you can see, it's not very clear because I had to guess that it's about price disparity. They also seem to highlight economic disparity in their intro. So they highlight the difference between the CEOs and the laborers. They also touch on overseas production or perhaps cheap labor overseas. Again, I'm extrapolating, and this is very confusing and unclear for the reader. They also reference environmental damage, so perhaps this essay will be about sustainability. Who knows? They also touch on consumer psychology and how fast fashion makes one feel out of trend. Now, what is their topic? As a reader, I'm not so sure. This introduction is trying to cover too much. Fast fashion alone is a very, very big topic, and it's not only impossible to cover all of these items, different aspects of fast fashion in a 5 to 6 page essay, but it's also so broad. This introduction is so broad in scope that it lacks focus and specificity, and consequently, it confuses the reader. And also, notice that because the writer is too busy listing the issues rather than focusing on a specific issue, they don't exactly provide or develop the context or significance section. For example, if a topic is cheap labor and poor working conditions, perhaps some historical background on how overseas production started, or perhaps a vivid description of the garment factories in different countries, or perhaps an overview of different perspectives of various experts in the fashion industry about this issue would be very helpful to the reader. But none of that is provided. This introduction fails to provide the reader with the context they need to understand the contentious issue before reading the rest of the essay. Now let's take a look at their thesis. We know that the thesis should be claim plus how plus so what. This is their thesis. In high fashion, there are 2 seasons, spring, summer, and fall, winter. In fast fashion, there are 52 mini seasons per year. Now, I think that latter statement is a commentary of there being 52 weeks in a year, so they're adjusting the high turnaround. Again, it's very confusing for the reader to have to piece this together. Not only is the point of the statement unclear, but this is not a thesis. We're not quite clear what the specific topic is, we're not clear what their position is, and what their 2 arguments will be, and why the reader should bother caring about this issue. Notice that they included a statistic, but they also didn't cite. So please don't make this mistake. If you're getting information from another source, you have to cite and give credit to that source. So, as a good editor should, as a good reader should, let's first focus on the strengths, because there must be some strengths here. And I have to say, as a reader, I did appreciate their interesting opening. It got me thinking about the price disparity, and so it was interesting, I have to say. I also appreciated that they provided real-world contemporary examples of fast fashion brands. They talk about H&M. They also refer to Forever 21. So that was also very well done. But what areas can be further strengthened? So as a reader, I found their introduction to be too broad. It also lacked clear direction because they were trying to cover too many topics at once, and each topic they addressed in this intro, it really deserves to be an essay of its own. In fact, I would even say that a topic like fashion and the environmental damage is so broad of a topic that you could narrow that down even further. And so by trying to cover too many items, as a consequence, this introduction lacks unity and focus, and last but not least, the thesis was unclear. So there are a lot of areas that this introduction could be further improved on. Let's take a look at the second example. So I'm looking at the section that says Introduction Sample 2 in your pink booklet. So take a moment to read this paragraph on your own, and you might want to briefly pause the video here to read this introduction. Let's start with the opening statement. See now, buy now is clearly their topic, and they open their essay by introducing it. As a reader, I really appreciate the straightforwardness of this opening. It's specific, it directly comments on and introduces the topic, and there's no ambiguity on what the rest of this introduction or essay will be about. Let's take a look on how they develop their introduction. They provide historical background, they provide real-world examples of fashion companies that use this model, they offer a very clear and concise definition of see now, buy now, and they share why this reform came to be, so more historical background. And all of this is logically organized to lead us to their thesis. Notice how focused this introduction is. Every single sentence in this introduction is to develop the idea of see now, buy now, and walk and guide the reader through. This is what we call unified writing. Writing that is focused on one main idea. The main idea is here is very clearly see now, buy now. Now, as a general reader, I didn't know anything about this topic, and I still need to learn more about it. But based on this introduction alone, I feel confident and I feel informed to read the rest of this essay. So the writer successfully did their job in providing me with the context that I need to further read on. Now, let's take a look at their thesis statement. I'll read it out to you. While there's a sense of tradition associated with a typical runway fashion cycle, the see now, buy now approach should be adopted by all fashion companies, for it helps the fashion industry adapt to technology as well as protects designs against fast fashion. Now, their claim, their position is very clear. See now, buy now should be used by all fashion companies. The reasons for their claim and how they will develop their claim are also clear. First, it will ensure that companies are keeping up with the times with technology. And secondly, it protects designs so that fast fashion companies do not copy and release them first. Now, it's okay if those two arguments are not very clear at this point. The rest of the essay will develop each argument with evidence and logical analysis to ultimately prove why say now, buy now should be the new business model. But with this thesis alone, I at least know what to anticipate, and I have some kind of roadmap to guide me to navigate the rest of this essay. And in this thesis, the two reasons serve as a so what or significance of this issue. Notice as well that they cite information that they are quoting or paraphrasing from another source. So I commend them for that as well. That it's very responsible. And so this is something you should do as well. So what strengths do we notice? As a reader, I appreciated how clear the opening statement was in introducing the topic. I also appreciated how unified and focused and on topic this introduction was. It was well organized. It was logically organized with transitional words to guide the reader through. The thesis is also very clear. I have a very clear idea and understanding of where the writer stands on this issue. And I also appreciated how clear their language was. They didn't assume that the reader would know what see now, buy now is. They took the time to clearly define it. What areas could be further strengthened? As a reader, I think that I would have appreciated more historical background on why why fashion companies, in this case actually luxury fashion companies, traditionally took 6 months to make clothes. So maybe some more historical background there. The writer assumes I would know, but I actually don't because I'm a general reader. So more information on that would be much appreciated. As a reader, it would also be helpful if the writer includes more discussion on why this is a contentious issue. What is a problem with the 6-month business model? What do other experts say about this issue? How do fashion companies imitate and rip off high-end brands as a result of the traditional 6-month model? How does any of this impact the community and the consumer? So I want more clarity on the contentious aspect of this issue. As we conclude this video, I want to come back to the question that we asked at the start of the video: what might the reader need in the introductory paragraph? And based on what we learned today in this video, it's clear that the reader needs an interesting and intriguing opening statement, context and background to offer the uninformed reader more information about this issue, significance and urgency of the issue, a logical explanation of why this issue is controversial, and a clear thesis that states the position of the writer. Thanks for watching, and please watch the body and conclusion paragraph videos to learn more about the rest of the essay. Thank you.